Welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. We have breaking news. Bill Cosby has been found, not that he has been found not guilty, his conviction was completely overturned, and I'm going to read to you the direct report as from the Associated Press. For the record, YouTube and everybody else, I am a member of the Associated Press and Reuters. I'm summarily invited to all of the meetings, and I do submit reports to both news hubs. Do they use my stuff? I don't know. I don't have to know. They don't have to give me notice or anything like that. They can use my stuff, yes or no. It doesn't matter. Anyway, please thumbs up the video. That's a part of the YouTube algorithm. Thumbs up, subscribe, leave comments, what have you. Let's get into it. Philadelphia, AP, Associated Press. Pennsylvania, highest score throughout Bill Cosby's sexual assault conviction and opened the way for his immediate release from prison Wednesday in a stunning reversal of fortune for the comedian once known as America's Dad, ruling that the prosecutor who brought the case was bound by his predecessor's agreement not to charge Cosby. And I'm going to get into a little bit of the details of what that is because people are confused. Why? Because CNN and all of the other clickbait news organizations failed to include what the actual agreement was. Cosby, 83, has served more than 2 years of a 3 to 10-year sentence after being found guilty of drugging and violating Temple University sports administrator Andrea Constand as his suburban Philadelphia home in 2004. Keep that date in mind. He was the first celebrity tried and convicted in the quote-unquote hashtag MeToo era. The former Cosby Show star was arrested in 2015, 2004, 2015, when the district attorney, armed with newly unsealed evidence, the comic's damaging deposition testimony, quote-unquote, in a lawsuit brought by Constant, brought charges against him days before the 12-year statute of limitations ran out. That is incorrect. The statute of limitations had run out. I'm correcting the AP news report. The statute of limitations had run out. The state of Pennsylvania bent over backwards just for the Bill Cosby case to arrest and try him after the statute of limitations had run out. And the defense team for Cosby was not allowed to bring that little detail to light in the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, the web is beginning to unwind, and we're going through this piece by piece. I've already done this on all of my Bill Cosby things, but you, no matter what you think of Cosby, and I'm sure a lot of you, your minds are made up, I want you to put yourself in the position of a man, any man. If you were brought to trial after the statute of limitations had run out, would you agree that the state should let the prosecution go forward after the statute of limitations had run out? We have statute of limitations for a reason. Mainly that you can't get any evidence. Mainly that you can't get any actual confessions. Mainly that you can't get any eyewitness testimony. Mainly that you cannot prove the case. Continuing on. But the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that District Attorney Kevin Steele, who made the decision to arrest Cosby, was obligated to stand by his predecessor's promise not to charge Cosby. There was no evidence that promises were ever put in writing. That is a red herring. I am a third-year law school student. That is a red herring. That is intended for public people like yourselves, normals like yourself. You can go in court and said, we agreed to it over the phone. You can go in court and go and say, we agreed to it face to face. You can go in court and say, we shook hands on it. You do not need in a court of law anything in writing to prove an agreement was made. Any newspaper telling you that you do is lying to you. A judge sits on the bench to determine, was there a meeting of the minds? Look that up. Was there a meeting of the mind? And has one of the parties proven that there was a meeting of the mind? You can have a multi-billion-dollar contract on a handshake. In Texas and Louisiana, that's all you need. And in fact, that's a long-held belief. And in the West, in such states as Nevada, that's all you need. You don't need anything in writing. That's something that has come up in Hollywood as a Hollywood thing. You don't need that. Continuing on. Justice David Wecht, writing for a split court, said Cosby had relied on the former district attorney's decision not to charge him when the comedian gave his potentially incriminating testimony in the Constant civil case. The court called Cosby's arrest an affront to fundamental fairness, particularly when it results in a criminal prosecution that was foregone for more than a decade. Let me explain that to you. The district attorney who made the agreement said, yes, we made the agreement. Cosby came forward and said, yes, we made the agreement. Now, if I were Cosby's lawyer, I would not have allowed him to say anything. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. I've done it myself. As a black man, police have stopped me. I know that's incredible to hear, but police have stopped me, and I have completely sealed my lips. And trust me, for me, Shakaama, to seal my lips is a very hard thing to do. But 3 years of law school and my very rich aunt lawyer who says don't say anything, don't say a word, that prompts me to exercise my Fifth Amendment. You do not have to say I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. You simply have to exercise your Fifth Amendment rights. It means don't say anything. But in this stupid case, the lawyer of Cosby said, go ahead and make the confession. Now, there is some confusion because clickbait newspapers like CNN, New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS all say the exact opposite of what he actually said. I have a whole video documenting exactly what happened with the exact transcript from the police report. Go look it up in the playlist. He did not confess to anything. It was not nice, but he didn't confess to anything. The justice said that overturning the conviction and barring any further prosecution, quote, is the only remedy that comports with society's reasonable expectations of its elected prosecutors and our criminal justice system. A Cosby spokesman did not immediately turn a message seeking comment, nor did still Representative Constant or her lawyer. Shakaama, the person that you're listening to, also tried to get in contact with the Cosby team to get some sort of statement from them, and I could not. While you might say, well, of course you can't, you ain't nobody. That's where you're wrong. They've talked to me before, and they've sent surrogates to talk to me before. Continuing on, quote, finally, a terrible wrong is being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected. The actors, Cosby Show co-star Felicia Rashad tweeted, quote, I am furious to hear this news, actor Amber Tamblyn, a founder of Time's Up, an advocacy group for victims of sexual assault, said in a Twitter post, quote, I personally know women who this man drugged and raped while unconscious. Shame on the court. She is lying through her teeth. And if she's not lying, if people actually told her that, they're lying through their teeth. Why does Shakaama say this? Because there have been documented interviews at least 2 hours long each of every single woman. 50% of them said absolutely nothing actually happened. So out of 40 women, 20 of them said nothing actually happened. Another 30% said something happened, but it wasn't rape. Then the final 20% were found to be lying, doing it for money, is a known liar, has no credibility whatsoever, has a reputation of doing that, and then the few that remain, including the person in the trial. The accusation fell on a date in which time Cosby was not in his home for an entire year, so it could not have happened. But they were not able to present that in court. They were not able to present that in court. Don't you think that's a detail that should have been included in the transcript? Also, there was a confession by the accuser that she was only bringing this for money. There was also presented a telephone conversation which the prosecutor actually presented, with the mother of the accused with Cosby on the phone. They did not play the entire phone conversation because the entire phone conversation also included the mother saying that she knows nothing happened. They were not allowed to include that in the court document. They only included the edited version of that telephone conversation. Four judges formed the majority that ruled in Cosby's favor, while 3 others dissented in whole or in part. Even though Cosby was charged only with the assault on Constance, the trial judge allowed 5 other accusers to testify that they too were similarly victimized by Cosby in the 1980s. Prosecutors called them as witnesses to establish what they said was a pattern of criminal behavior on Cosby's part. Let me give you a little bit of detail about that. The women that they put on trial, that they put on the stand to say this about Cosby, at no point ever went to the police. At no point had a rape kit done. At no point went to the ER. At no point had a police report about it. At no point did they go to trial to get an actual conviction on any of their accusation. So putting them on the stand as witnesses is what we like to call a kangaroo court. They wanted to put 20 women on the stand to say what a terrible person Cosby was. The 5 that they put up there, one included one that actually broke down on the stand and said she made it up. In the courtroom, in the trial, on the stand admitted that she made it up. That she made it all up for her book. And speaking of books, guess who had a book? The judge, the DA, the assistant DA, who was actually dating the accuser. She is a lesbian. The assistant DA is a woman, and she is, quote unquote, the wife of the accuser. Do you all see a conflict of interest here at all? Also, the judge's wife is a woman advocate, totally against men, yada, 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 right? Conflict of interest for him, when that was brought to his attention by the press, he said, no, there is no conflict of interest. She's my wife, but we're 2 different people. There's no conflict of interest. That's your wife. That's the point. She's your wife. But the court declined to say whether 5 other accusers should have been allowed to testify, considering it moot given the finding that Cosby should not have been prosecuted in the first place. I wish they would have said something, because that was a huge debate at the time, because it goes against the proving a pattern of a specific behavior. And this is the doctrine that they brought the 5 accusers onto the stand, proving a specific pattern of behavior. Can you bring people to the stand who've never had any dealings with a court, any sort of accusation, any sort of actual documented proof, or any proof of any kind, or any sort of conviction? Can you do that? Can you just bring people off the street who just said stuff about the person? Because that's what it was. But the court didn't even want to talk about it. In New York, the judge presiding over last year's trial of movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, whose case had sparked the explosion of the hashtag MeToo movement in 2017, let four other accusers testify. Weinstein, this is New York, this is not Pennsylvania, so keep that in mind. Weinstein was convicted and sentenced to 23 years in prison. He is now facing separate charges in California. The Weinstein case is completely separate from Cosby, although they try and equate the two. In the Weinstein case, there's women who actually brought evidence. There's women who brought witnesses. There's women who actually have actual friends of Weinstein who came out and said, yes, not only did this happen, but we know it's a pattern that it happens. Their defense was it was consensual because it was an agreement between Weinstein and the women. But apparently the court doesn't believe in contracting favors to be a movie star. At no point in the Cosby case did anybody come out with proof or evidence or anything. People saying stuff is not proof, especially when there's counter proof that says that the person actually said the exact opposite and confessed that it was not true and that it was done for money to bring the entire case. Prosecutors said Cosby repeatedly used his fame and family man persona to manipulate young women, holding himself out as a member before betraying them. This is not true because young women came to all of the news channels and news stations and said, it's never happened to me. There was 20 young women on the Different World show. No, not a single one came out and said anything. All the people who appeared on Cosby said, nope, never happened to me. And in fact, the exact opposite was true. Cosby was very supportive of women and women's rights and women's ability, but he was in favor of black women getting ahead, black women being successful, black women making their acting resumes perfect, black women making their directorial resumes perfect, black, which I believe is the whole point of this, because the Me Too movement has accused and tried over 90% black men. This Me Too movement isn't the movement that you thought it was. Continuing on, he fell from favor in his later years as he lectured the black community about family values, but was attempting a comeback when he was arrested. And that's the point right there. How dare he say, see, I didn't even read ahead. And I told you what he was actually doing. He was pro-black. He is pro-black, but he's also conservative. Family values. Mom and dad in the home. Who is against mom and dad in the home? The liberals. The complete liberal movement. The Me Too movement is definitely anti-family. Have you read the platforms? Have you listened to the speeches? Cosby is pro-black and pro-conservative. The pound cake speech that he's famous for giving that supposedly black people were against, which is not true. It's a very specific type of black person who would be against a black person telling another black person to pull up your pants, get married before having children. It's a very specific type of black person who would be against that sort of speech. Also, they were very famously quoting black news outlets. Let me tell you and let me reveal to the world that quote-unquote black news outlets, 99% of them are owned by white people. They are not owned by black people. Why they are black news outlets? Half of them didn't start out as black news outlets. And the other half were, of course, sold like black people do to white owners. BET is owned by white people. Ebony, Essence, all owned by white people. Not only that, they're owned by white people who do not like black people. Oh, I'm not saying that they're racist. I'm saying they just don't like black people. There's a difference. The editor-in-chief of Essence or Jet has had multiple conflicts with the person who's over her, who says, no, do not run this story. I don't want this story. And what was the story? It was a pro-black woman story, and the person who's actually in charge said, no, do not run that story. I'm not saying they're racist. I'm saying that they don't like black people, and they do not want to promote black togetherness, black family, black empowerment, and definitely not black woman empowerment. You need to, all you black women listening to me, you need to take a look at the stuff that you read, and you need to ask yourself, is this actually black woman empowerment, which should include a black man somewhere in the mix? It can't be black empowerment if it's anti-black man, anti-black family. So when you have the quote-unquote black media coming against Cosby, and I tell you, oh, no. The black media isn't owned by black people, it's owned by white people. It should pop into your head that, of course, the quote-unquote black media would be against Cosby because they can't have that. They're not pro-black. They're not pro-black family. Finally, the AP does not typically identify sexual assault victims without their permission, which Constant has granted. Now, as to the quote-unquote confession that Cosby made, I have the full transcript. It was asked, have you ever purchased Quaaludes? Answer, yes. Have you ever purchased Quaaludes in favor of getting with women? Answer, yes, of course. It was at the request of women. Part 2. They go to the woman in question, which is now something like a 60-year-old, 70-year-old woman, who says, yes, I requested it, and Cosby and I are still friends to today. No, he didn't do anything that I didn't want him to do. That was the whole point of getting the Quaaludes. Quaaludes have not been legal since 1970. So the entire point about Quaaludes has nothing to do with the current case, current trial, current conviction. Nothing. That is not a confession as to doing anything. The Quaalude, and also this whole idea that Quaaludes puts people to sleep is a lie. Quaaludes was the party drug that people took to stay awake all night. You had your regular week. This is way back when people went to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekend they wanted to party, so they took Quaaludes to stay awake. And in fact, if somebody were to take Quaaludes and they fell asleep, you would call the ambulance because they are about to go into a coma and you are not supposed to fall asleep on Quaaludes. I looked all of this stuff up during this whole time. People don't know what Quaaludes are, and the clickbait media wants to tell you that Quaaludes puts people to sleep. No, it does not. Hopefully there's people old enough in the chat that will tell you exactly I am right about that. Of course, now the new party drug also does the same thing. It keeps you awake. Also, Quaaludes requested by women had a known aphrodisiac effect. If a woman requested Quaaludes, you know exactly what she's actually asking for. This idea that these super innocent women came to Cosby, and Cosby is such a huge monster that he's doing this and that and the other with them, and it's Cosby is such a monster. Is a complete lie. Cosby was the final Rat Pack person. Cosby hung out in the Playboy Mansion. Cosby was the black guy who was the cool guy, right? He wasn't Sammy Davis Jr., he was Cosby. He was a comedian. He was funny. He was the life of the party. A lot of the accusers have been trying to peddle a story just like the maid of Michael Jackson, Britney Spears, some of the other celebrities, trying to peddle a story so that they could get paid. One of them was a complete drug user and still is, and a quote unquote sex worker and still is. Did Cosby do anything with her? No. After being interviewed, she was at a function where Cosby was, but he never talked to her. Never, he may have met her, but he never associated. But she had her story to tell to get money. If you listen to the guy that who says knowledge, or I have this library in my garage with my Lamborghini and I like knowledge and I like the books, that guy made a video and he said that when he was worth $100,000, no woman talked to him. When he was worth $1 million, women started talking to him. And when he became worth $10 million, that's when he had to retain lawyers around the clock because women would do stuff like come and be his maid, and after 2 hours have an accident in the house and then try and sue him, making him liable for millions of dollars. This is why he said, you don't understand what men go through when they have money. Cosby is a billionaire, was a billionaire. I got into a debate with somebody who says, oh, Cosby didn't have enough money to buy NBC. NBC is on record for saying that they could not believe a black man actually had enough money to buy NBC, which meant to say that Cosby did in fact put a bid on NBC. They called in the morning to talk about NBC being purchased, and by the afternoon they rejected the offer because NBC was up for grabs to be bought. And they specifically quoted saying that a black man had enough money to bid on NBC. And they found that shocking. Cosby owns radio stations, TV stations. He's a media mogul without anybody knowing it. Everybody just says, oh, the Cosby Show. The guy has tons and tons of assets around the country, and he understands that media is the thing that we must control, we black people, to have our own conversation. Anyway, this has been the story from the AP News. Cosby has been set free, has had his conviction reversed. As to the merits of the case, there never was merits. There was never presented any evidence. There was never any evidence presented to corroborate the story whatsoever, and they would not let the defense present proof that the person was actually lying. Proof. Several witnesses, they wouldn't allow any of them. When I say a kangaroo court, I mean a kangaroo court. The jury was hand-selected. The jury were friends and family of the actual district attorney. The district attorney hated the former district attorney. The family is actually racist against black people, the accuser. The accuser's family is racist. There's a conflict of interest between the assistant district attorney being married to the accuser. When I say a kangaroo court, it is a travesty what happened. And that this was allowed to go on. And that they didn't say, we're going to appeal this, let Cosby be free while we appeal this. No. That right there, that's kangaroo court stuff too. Put him in prison while we go through the appeals process. That's kangaroo court stuff. That's Deliverance. I think that's the name of the movie. That's some Deliverance stuff, right? Thank you all for watching. Donate to the channel. I'll leave all the support links in the bottom.